with us to get in some learning. And now that restrictions are starting to relax, all the COVID restrictions are starting to relax, we are getting ready to return to what will be the new normal. And it would be lovely in this new normal to have new skills to use. And this evening, we want to bring you into a particular type of understanding that usually is not shared. Many of us go through life without understanding properly how our finances work. We know that they don't teach us that in school unless you go into doing finance. And even then, it is limited what you get to learn. Tonight, we have a gentleman who is going to share with you how important education is. Now, I must be honest, when I joined this company in 2017, I really was not focused on education. I was focused on making money. I was focused on finding a way to circumvent the banks. And I was curious about cryptocurrency, having heard about it and not knowing too much about it. However, within a matter of months, it became very important. It was very impactful, the importance of the financial education that this company shares. And once we embraced the importance of education, we really got into our learning. And the gentleman that I have on tonight, he was one of our earliest lectures when we started sharing with people this financial education. He is an industrial engineer. He is a very well-read, knowledgeable man, a Toastmaster, and he has a very calm way of sharing with you and embracing you with the knowledge. Some people are intimidated to be learning once they pass a certain age, but we have people here who break it down for you so nicely. And tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Alvin Morton to share with you. And he is one of those people who so simply explains what we are about. And more than that, he keeps it very relevant to what is happening currently, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the world over where finance and economics is concerned. So tonight, please help me welcome Mr. Alvin Morton to bring you into the light of the new normal. Alvin, take it away.
Thank you very much, and a pleasant good evening, or good morning, or good night to others who may be joining us. Thank you very much again, Janelle, for that very kind introduction. And I'm not going to mess around, so to speak. Let's get after it. So that would entail sharing my screen and getting into the presentation that will hopefully, and I dare say hopefully, and more than hopefully, get us to the place where we move from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. One life, together for more life. It is normal for me to begin with a disclaimer, and that is that the information contained in this presentation is not intended or should be construed as a source of financial information. One Life is not an investment company. We don't have licenses or any of those things. However, we do believe that due diligence is always important, and therefore the information we seek to share and have been sharing for the last 50 odd days would add value to your due diligence process. And it is on that basis that we begin. My paradigm or my sense of relevance came from these modules from the Heriot-Watt University that I completed circa 2003, 2004. So that's 16, 17 years ago. Obviously, what is contained in many of these, if not all, may be at risk, more than likely is at risk for the in terms of relevance. Most of this information now can be found online. You can Google many of these things, and you may be amazed at the level of explanation that is available, as well as the relative cost decrease that one would experience. But it represents something that's important and that perhaps many of us don't pay enough attention to, and that is this business of a paradigm. My family history, grandparents and so on, is one of extreme poverty. And therefore, they bought into the paradigm that said education is the answer. So my parents went to secondary school, certainly my father did, and he went on to university. My aunt and uncle did the same, and we were therefore groomed. We were given that mindset, that operating system. And for the most part, up until now, it was positive, propulsive, and purposeful. And by extension, therefore, these paradigms are responsible for the results I've seen to date. You may be amazed that this may be true for you as well as you examine your own state of affairs. I mentioned something about the 4 stages, or from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. NOEL BURCH is credited with this, and there are others who have contributed to it. I was looking at this and looking for this today as a very simple way of explaining what it is. Unconscious incompetence is that stage where we do not know what we do not know. And the move from there to conscious incompetence is an aha moment. I had such a moment in 2017. All of this taking place surrounding cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and 10 cents for one and the like. I had no clue. Yet I have an MBA. Yes, I went to university. Yes, I am PMP certified. Absolutely ignorant. But fortunately, through the One Academy, I had an ouch moment. I had to move from conscious incompetence to conscious competence, and I received help along the way. It required learning and it required change. Would I say that I'm at the stage of unconscious competence? No. I would not say that. I would say that I'm becoming to get there. I'm in the process of becoming unconsciously competent. Why? Because sometimes the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Let me say that again. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And there may be many of us who are on this call tonight who are confronted with exactly what this quote from Joseph Campbell talks about. It was a situation for me. But fortunately, understanding paradigms and the need to be decisive and recognizing that you don't know what you do not know, you make certain decisions with haste, or as our co-captain, as our captain, Diamond James would say, you make decisions at once because everything is changing again. And this is going to be the new normal. COVID-19 has emphasized the change and will be the pin or the train that ushers in even more catastrophic change, depending on the perspective that you have. So the question that I have for you, that I have for myself, that we should each be asking, are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? Because the World Economic Forum is indicating and pointing to some deep shifts and some tipping points that are going to have significant impact on what we will be facing in 2025. Driverless cars. I remembered when a movie called I, Robot came out sometime in 1999, 2000, thereabout. And Will Smith is in a driverless car. And here is it, as of 2015, when this report was done, there's the view that 10% of all cars on the US roads will be driverless cars. And in fact, we shall have the same phenomenon or phenomena exhibited in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean diaspora. For those of us who are still in a job, like myself, we must recognize that the first AI machine on a corporate board of directors has been forecast and is expected by 2025. That, ladies and gentlemen, is 5 years from now. Because we are in a stage called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Excuse me. Artificial intelligence and information technology, the confluence and convergence of AI, big data, Internet of Things, blockchain, and distributed ledger technology are producing massive changes for which words sometimes escape me and others in terms of the breadth, depth, and scope of what is to come. I happen to be in the facilities maintenance industry at this time, and have been in that industry for about 2 years. But as I look back over my career, I've always been in facilities maintenance. It's just that it was never called that. So now we have the Zanita Facility Maintenance AI platform. And someone will ask, well, what does all of this have to do with this OneLife presentation? Remember what I said. Are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? This AI platform inevitably will have, perhaps not stated, but will be there, a blockchain component. And if not explicitly stated, it will become apparent eventually. So in my research for tonight's presentation, I thought that I should play this video. I did mention iRobot, and I thought, wow, iSynergy. Pay attention to certain words that are mentioned in this video.
ICE presents iSynergy, a new innovation and complete machine management system which is based on Internet of Things. After login to the machine, all important and automatically generated data will be sent to the server by mobile data or Wi-Fi, such as which user is working with the machine, running and charging time, but also the location of the machine. The iSynergy system guards the 5 important electronic components. Every abnormality will be notified and sent by text or email to the service department. iSynergy software reports on levels or departments. You decide which level or department receives the information. Daily, weekly, and monthly reports provide you with a clear view of all operational data. Therefore, it's an excellent tool for total fleet management. ICE Rental gives you the opportunity to rent a cleaning machine for a very acceptable price.
You would have noticed this is a company, ICE Robotics. They mentioned the Internet of Things. They mentioned all of the benefits that will come with this. We are part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We are talking about fleet management. Permit me to share this next video.
SoftBank Robotics is the leader in workforce augmentation, and our latest development brings innovation to the cleaning industry. Our autonomous vacuum is easy to train and enables your entire team to activate soft surface cleaning with the touch of a button. The vacuum operates for up to 3 hours on a single charge, allowing your staff to focus on other custodial tasks. Cloud connection allows storage of various maps for multiple locations. Advanced computer vision navigates real-world environments while avoiding all obstacles. Zero-turn capabilities enable cleaning in tight spaces. Smart paging technology ensures that staff and machines work seamlessly together, regardless of Wi-Fi connectivity. Are you ready to reach new levels of efficiency and productivity? Give your business the competitive advantage with our autonomous vacuum.
Are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? Are you ready to reach new levels of efficiency and productivity? Because this is the substance of the conversation, ladies and gentlemen, that we will be confronted with in this fourth industrial revolution. There's no getting away from it. Top 10 skills. Let's start with the top 3. In 2015, when this report came out, complex problem solving, coordinating with others, and people management were the top 3. In 2020, complex problem solving is still number 1. Critical thinking, though, is number 2. And number 3 is creativity. People management has dropped 1 place. Coordinating with others has dropped 3 places. What skills will change most? Creativity will become one of the top 3 skills workers will need. Notice the company that video came from talked about workforce augmentation. We must recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that COVID-19, SARS-CoV-19, new novel coronavirus, whichever one of the monikers applies, has the real potential of causing certain jobs not to come back and to accelerate these types of technologies, interventions, and collaborations. Are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? And inevitably, that question will apply to the financial services and investment sector, which, according to the report at the time, indicated has yet to be radically transformed. Those working in sales and manufacturing will need new skills, such as technological literacy. Can you imagine what is involved in repairing an autonomous vacuum? It's going to be quite different from what we've been accustomed to. That's a new skill. There's a level of technological literacy that will be necessary. And so that brings me to my own interaction with FinTech. Because if we're seeing these technological changes in things like vacuums, facility maintenance, AI platforms, and so on, isn't it inevitable that we will see something called FinTech in the truest sense of the word? So in 2017, and I felt the best way to become Okura and move from conscious incompetence to conscious competence is to give a speech on this thing. The title of the speech was Your Own Bank. And at that time, I was able to determine that 40 TT dollars, 2 kaimits, as my mother would say, or 2 purple notes, would have bought 63 Bitcoins at the time in 2009 at 10 cents for 1 US. Now, or at the time the speech was given in 2017, some 8 years later, those 63 coins would have been worth 150,000 US. There were 850 cryptos at the market capitalization of 80 billion US at the time. As of today, the same 63 Bitcoins bought with 40 TT dollars is now worth 565,000 US dollars. There are about 5,460 plus cryptos and a market cap that has tripled between 2017 and 2020, less than 3 years later. Are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? The interesting thing is that Bitcoin was never intended to be a cryptocurrency. According to the abstract from the white paper, it was a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Please don't take my word for it. The Bitcoin white paper is there. You can Google it, and it's about 10 or 11 pages. Feel free to download it and check. One should note, because we talk about Merkle trees and so on, R.C. Merkle, Protocols for Public Key Crypto Systems. And he presented this at a paper at a symposium on security and privacy in 1980. So this has been a gathering storm, ladies and gentlemen. And it appears that the perfect storm that allows the full power to be manifested has arrived. The record-keeping technology behind the Bitcoin network is the blockchain. Blocks on the blockchain are made up of digital pieces of information. The chain is the database, the public database. Blocks can store anything: date, time, the dollar amount of your most recent purchase. It can store records, transactions related to music, related to taxes, related to health records, related to voting. So really, we have no excuse not to have an election this year because it can be done. The technology already exists. But that's another conversation for another time. Blockchains can be centralized or decentralized, public or private, and there are pros and cons to each. The OneLife blockchain is centralized and private, mimicking or borrowing the model used by Steve Jobs and the Apple computer system. My source, of course, for this information is investopedia.com. There are other sources. Feel free to avail yourself of them. I just happen to like the simplicity and the additional information that is available from investopedia.com. ECB official says the central bank is working on a retail digital currency, floats decentralized token model. The European, and this was dated May 11th, 2020, so this is 2 days ago. The European Central Bank is working on a retail central bank digital currency as part of an investigative task force. We should note that the head of the European Central Bank is now Christine Lagarde, former managing director of the International Monetary Fund. And this article is useful. I have the source listed here, www.theblockcrypto.com. You can feel free to check it out. But I want to highlight or emphasize or point out something that is said here. Most of the money issued by central banks is in fact already digital, albeit not called CBDC. At present, access to the central bank's balance sheet offers the possibility to access digital central bank money. What could change in the future is the scope of the parties eligible to access our central bank balance sheets. A wholesale CBDC restricted to a limited group of financial counterparties would be largely business as usual. However, a retail CBDC accessible to all would be a game changer. So a retail CBDC is now our main focus. I thought this was a very interesting statement. Could it be that central banks now seek to compete with commercial banks, investment banks, and others, and that the CBDC, which would be built and backed by a blockchain, enables such a development to occur? In strategy, and you would read about this or learn about this at level 2, Porter's 5 forces model. This reminds me a lot of the potential for forward integration. A commercial bank becoming a central bank would be backward integration. A central bank going into a retail component is forward integration. We may now be seeing the situation where central banks can and will move against their counterparties, those being commercial banks and, I dare say, other financial institutions. The reality is that this piece of paper on the left, which controls our lives so much, and the piece of paper on the right are not much different. The significant difference is something we cannot see, and that's called belief. And it is our belief that one has more value than the other. Because we're talking about fiat money here, paper currency. Money has no intrinsic value and is not backed up by the equal value of a commodity. We need to recall that these paper notes were initially receipts or claim checks issued against an equivalent amount of gold, a tangible asset, a commodity. That was closed by President Nixon in 1971. Fiat money has lent itself to QE, quantitative easing, the introduction of new money into the money supply by a central bank. And I just read for you where we were talking about a CBDC and a retail CBDC. So we may now be seeing the ability of the bank to simply move to digital that which is being done using QE for physical paper money. A very dangerous scenario. Inflation. It is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. Consequently, the purchasing power of currency falls. And don't we experience this? Can $100 today buy what $100 bought last month, last year, last 5 years? And then we talk about the number of dollars in circulation, 1.5 trillion. And I think it's of this order that the US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, has used to backstop the US economy. At least that was pre-coronavirus. It's a lot more than that now, 4, maybe 5 times. Some people are saying even higher than that. And to think that $1 trillion in $1,000 notes would reach 67.9 miles high from the Earth's surface. Imagine what 6 of those looks like. And we don't print $1,000 bills. Certainly not yet anyway. QE, because we talked about it, quantitative easing. And Investopedia.com says that it's an extraordinary monetary policy framework used to quickly increase the domestic money supply and spur economic activity. In very simple form, this is money printing. It usually involves the central bank purchasing longer-term government bonds, such as MBS. This is the methodology by which it's done, but fundamentally it's printing of money or adding ones and zeros to a digital ledger. And this is why this CBDC thing is going to be a serious challenge. But we await and we see how we can mitigate that as we progress through this presentation. And according to Investopedia.com, there was an earlier pledge by the Fed to fund up to 1.5 trillion to the overnight bank repo market rate. This, of course, preceded the 700 billion QE program that was announced on March 15th. Of course, something more significant was subsequently announced. And who knows what else is being pumped, printed, or created out of thin air. Because these things are part of monetary policy, the printing of money, QE, interest rates, and the like, we felt it was necessary, and we do this in the One Academy, to go into some of these terms. What is monetary policy? And I'm not going to go into this tonight. I'd invite you to join our One Academy sessions for that. And if we're talking monetary policy, we must be talking about fiscal policy as well. The monetary policy is what the central bank does. The fiscal policy is what the central government does. One is dealing with the money supply and interest rates. The other deals with taxes and how it's spent. And some of us might have been hearing about a term called deficit spending, where the government spends more than it earns. And these things happen either to stimulate or give stimulus to. So this coronavirus scenario will increase deficits. And some of us may be taking false sense of comfort, because after all, the US debt to GDP is what, 135%, 150%, depending on what numbers you use and who you're listening to. In Trinidad and Tobago, it's just 65%. So we may be taking a false sense of security from that until debt becomes due. Who will be required to pay for it? Another way of defining or articulating what inflation is, it is money, or more correctly, currency that has lost value. It is too much currency available compared to the items we need or want. It is the result of increasing government borrowing. And we've heard, and certainly in Trinidad and Tobago, the authorities talk about the need for increased borrowing. Okay. It benefits a few, typically those closest to the delivery of the new money. Seigniorage, that's another term that we talked about and you will hear more about in subsequent One Academy sessions. And steals from the future, i.e. our children and grandchildren. Because at the end of the day, folks, and we know this intuitively, even without all of those things that I've just said, you cannot outrun inflation with an income earned in a shrinking currency. In 1913, the Federal Reserve was formed. The dollar had its full value. By the time 2013, 100 years later, it's down to 2 cents. And we may say, well, okay, so it's lost value, big deal. But then we in Trinidad and Tobago and other countries have pegged our local currency to that. So what does this mean? If one US dollar, is 677 TT, might be the official exchange rate, depending on who you talk to, it might be 6.76, 6.77, 6.78. And let's say it's 5 US cents. That means the US dollar is actually worth $135.40 TT. Can we now understand why, even as we work harder, we seem to be going nowhere slower? What about the Jamaican scenario? And this is at 134.89 Jamaican dollars. Can we understand the implications of these things? This was purely derived from the analysis and from the information given before. And I credit the One Academy and by extension the One Life system with enabling me to think about these things and therefore come to these conclusions. We need to reset this system or else we will be reset out of time. And therefore, the reset leads and must lead to some sort of evolution and a continuance of that. We started with the barter system. You don't hear much about it. It's now being called counter trade for some countries that cannot and simply will not be able to get hard currency. You can research that. From there, it moved to gold coins, and it is from the gold coins that receipts or claim checks, which eventually morphed into paper currency. From paper currency, we went to card systems, and some of us have one or more of these. From card systems, we went to digital systems. We heard and we saw the conversation from the European Central Bank. Most transactions are already digital. And then we have cryptocurrency, which I've already said, Bitcoin was never intended to be. And you will not see the word cryptocurrency anywhere in the Bitcoin white paper. And all of this has happened because this paper currency, fiat currency, backed by nothing other than the government's say-so. And the biggest risk for it is hyperinflation. We need not look too far. We can see what's happening in Venezuela. We can see what's happening in and what has happened in Zimbabwe. The US dollar previously was run by something called the Continental. Hyperinflation printed it into oblivion. In the German Republic of Weimar, I believe, just before, after the First World War, they had the same challenge. So it's not new. This is something that has been going on for some time. What is a cryptocurrency? Digital or virtual money, a new form of digital asset. It is outside of the control of governments and central authorities. And it's part of the reason they fought against it with such vehemence. Are you willing to change what you do by changing what you know? Many cryptocurrencies are decentralized. I said that. Some are centralized, some are public, some are private. They are based on a blockchain technology. We talked about that. This information is from investopedia.com. And then I saw this article from Caleb Silver, again, investopedia.com. And he talks about cashless or contactless. And I heard this term contactless at the height of the COVID lockdown at Price Smart Supermarket, where they were talking about contactless options, cards, debit cards, credit cards, and cash being the last resort. Mr. Silver went to the money conference in 2018, and he was in Dublin for nearly 30 hours. He hadn't spent any euro, no physical money. And that's not correct. He did. It's just that he did it using cashless or contactless means. Because in Europe, 70% of the market has gone that way. The US is well behind. And the interesting thing about that is the KSI blockchain, which is the foundation of the Estonian government system, is a US blockchain that is used in the Department of Defense. So it's not that they do not know and cannot therefore come up with something that is world class. Our own International Financial Center, the Trinidad and Tobago TTIFC, has this information. And I went scouring. I had to take physical pictures to be able to put this together. And they have recorded some milestones. In early 2016, BIT launched a digitalized Barbados dollar. Come to 2019, and you could feel free to check TTIFC. You will find this information there. BIT and the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank signed a contract to conduct a central bank blockchain issued digital currency. Didn't we just see these words, these letters? CBDC. This is 2019. We are seeing the European Central Bank talking about a retail version. It's moving by leaps and bounds because they are prepared to change what they do by changing what they know. In Trinidad and Tobago, local fintech milestones, the big thing here for me is in late 2018, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago issued its e-money draft policy. But in 2019, Republic Bank Limited acquires a 20% stake in WePay. What is it that they know that we do not wish to know and therefore do not wish to change? We should note that the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago is aware that almost 30% of our population is unbanked. 56% of all debit card transactions are done at point of sales terminals. There's a lot of information that is already known, and we either will be moving in advance or we will be left behind. And that brings me to OneLife and why we should look at OneLife for those of us who haven't, and why we should continue to hold fast to that, which is evident for those of us in OneLife already. 194 countries and growing. Some say 195, some say 196. 3.5 million users and growing. And of course, we note the preponderance of members in this section of the world compared to this section of the world. What is it that they know that we don't want to know? Are we willing to change what we do by changing what we know? And our mission, therefore, mission of OneLife, is in fact to change what we do by changing what we know. We want to enable a global community of web users. We want to increase the quality of life of members. We want to provide alternative and equal access to practical and relevant financial education worldwide, changing what we do by changing what we know. igniting a natural educational evolution, and therefore inviting opportunities for economic growth that does not rely on quantitative easing, that deals with the matter of inflation, and therefore preserves value and brings the unbanked into the equation. These are all very important, lofty, and achievable goals that I dare say OneLife has already met most, if not all. It is just a question now of the full exhibition and announcement to the world. Notice that all of what I have said revolves around education. I haven't said anything about packages. I haven't said anything about coins. I have just said education. And this is what is at the heart of the company. But I'm going to let our founder tell us what the One Academy is. Let's try that again.
One Academy is the heart of our company. Cryptocurrency is not an easy product. It's a very innovative product based on technology and based on very, very complex concepts. For us to be part of this financial revolution, to be part of cryptocurrency and of the community, we need to understand exactly what you want to talk about. And this is why we have the One Academy. The One Academy provides you concepts, provides you with explanation on cryptocurrency and on the financial world. I would encourage everybody to join the courses, to do the certificates, and to understand thoroughly how to use cryptocurrency, what cryptocurrency is, and how it can change the world and history. One Academy. Learn today, lead tomorrow.
Learn today and lead tomorrow. Can you really achieve that if you are unwilling to change what you do because you're completely unconcerned about changing what you know? Computers go through an upgrade process periodically. Shouldn't we be doing the same? Learn today and lead tomorrow. How can you lead yourself if you haven't learned what is required? And this is what the One Academy does. It provides that basis. I have only done levels 1 and 2. Congratulations to Lisa Green, who has accomplished level 7, Mr. Karabai, and there are others who have gone to the top of the mountain. I intend and aspire to get there one of these days. But I do appreciate that having gone into the basics, levels 1 and 2, it is better preparation for me as I ascend the higher levels and go more towards mastery after unconscious competence has been achieved. What are you learning today and leading tomorrow in? You're learning finance, introduction to finance, all the way up to behavioral finance and risk management. That's on the finance side. There are forex modules, from forex fundamentals to trading strategies. We have the legal courses, which is really an opportunity born out of adversity. Adversity in Italy, adversity in Germany, and other countries, other jurisdictions. These legal courses came out of that adversity. I look forward to those on the US law, because let's be real. Once central banks begin to experiment and articulate and roll out CBDCs, and China is leading the pack, at some point, taxes are going to have to come into play. Wouldn't that be the next frontier of legislative activity? And who is better prepared to discuss legislative framework, rigor, implementation, and the like, but those of us who have gone through this process? We are designed for legislation, not speculation. And therefore, we need to acquire the basics. We cannot be masters of anything unless we master the basics. It is Bruce Lee who said, I am not afraid of the 10,000 strikes you've practiced only once. I am definitely afraid of the one strike you've practiced 10,000 times. So the legal course, the inductee course, contains the information needed for every beginner in the legal cryptocurrency world. We go to Vestigia, that's the next level up, the inevitable impact of cryptocurrency on the traditional market and a variety of crypto systems. Liga Beast, level 3, and this talks about legal implications for regulators and ICO, or initial coin offering regulations. Because as we move towards this digital landscape more and more, we will be moving out of initial public offerings and more towards initial coin offerings. Some are good, some are better. Where there's good, there's bad. Where there's bad, there is worse. The top of the range, Duos Across, gives a very good understanding of the integration of cryptocurrencies with the banks. Aren't we seeing this taking place under our very noses? And the financial institutions, as well as the compliance systems and tax regimes in each country. It's the next frontier. We should and need to get prepared. So from legal definition of cryptocurrency all the way through to compliance systems and tax regimes. And we started to touch on some of this in a One Academy call that we had earlier this week. Some of the jurisdictions covered: Italy, Germany, Belgium, Bulgaria, and so on. More will come. And the brilliance and beauty of this system is that children have not been left out. Believe it or not, we are teaching children finance. Yes, we are. We teach them about consumptive debt. When we give them money to buy things, we are teaching them consumptive debt. But there are a group of us, more fortunate, who had parents who taught us about self-liquidating debt. And because they taught it to us at an age and a stage when our rational minds were not yet developed, we now have a paradigm of seeking out instruments that are self-liquidating. And if they are self-liquidating, they run the banks and have the banks run to them, rather than be at the mercy of the banks and have the banks run them. It's a very interesting thing, and the Super TED team is to be commended. This initiative is to be commended because it provides and fills a gap that many of us between the ages of 5 and 12 would not have had the benefit of. We have the opportunity to make significant changes. This entire system is the first system to store know your customer documents on its blockchain. And now we're seeing everybody and everyone doing the same thing. Some are calling it two-factor authentication and the like. But this was already designed in Dr. Ruja's mind. She saw it, that we would need to put in place a system already ready for legislation. We are in a privileged position. We should be taking greater advantage of it because this will be the future of money. The banks resisted it. The central banks outlawed it. They put out cautionary papers on it. Now they are going towards retail CBDCs and all of the implications that go along with that. According to the OneLife network, cryptocurrency is digital money that uses blockchain technology and cryptography for security and anti-counterfeiting. The value is not based on any country or central bank. The value is dependent on supply and demand. Good old supply and demand, straight economics, basic economics. It behaves more like gold or silver. And Bitcoin was the first in 2009. And as I've already said, Bitcoin was never intended to be a cryptocurrency. The OneLife system is built as an ecosystem, and that's a word we're going to be hearing a lot of in management speak and boardrooms? What is your ecosystem? And does your ecosystem have all the relevant components to support its ongoing development and the like? We have a robust ecosystem. Not all elements are in place, and I think for good reason. In some cases, there are conditions that are not yet appropriate for the other aspects of the ecosystem to be introduced. The more significant ones, though, are already here. Welcome to oneforex, One World Foundation for True Philanthropic Activity, the dealshaker, and of course, the OneLife network. The preponderance of apps and the tendency for apps to be developed and built and sold. And one of my colleagues, he said his daughter was asked to do a project to basically build an app that would tell people when PTSD schedules are running or when maxi taxi schedules are in place. We have a mobile application builder as part of this ecosystem. The contribution, collaboration, and contribution of all of these components is what is driving the value of the one. From 50 cents euro in January 2015 to 42.43 as of February 2020. I am happy that I was able in some way, shape, or form to participate in this, even as I understood that I did not know what I did not know. I was, however, prepared to change what I was doing by changing what I knew. But all of this is useless and meaningless if there is no usability. We buy phones, and how many of us with the phones we have can confidently and competently say that we use 100% of the features? I certainly don't. But our one is usable for many things, and the dealshaker provides that basis. It is used for products, travel, services, home and auto, and more. Mic is on, but we will continue. Thanks. What deals can we expect in the dealshaker? Travel, services, the list goes on. Too numerous to mention, in my view. And this is only 3, 4 or so years in. Can you imagine what this would look like in 5 years or in 10 years? Could be quite interesting. Get positioned early, because registered businesses can sell on the dealshaker, as well as individual sellers. I have sold laminine products as an individual seller. I have bought honey and other things as a purchaser using the dealshaker network. This, I think, is one significant answer to a lot of the difficulty, real or perceived, that COVID-19 imposes. And it might be a way through which and from which we can extricate ourselves from the tendency to reach for deficit spending and other means of that ilk. The dealshaker is an interactive commerce hub, and one can look up the website and look and shop till you drop. Look at all the deals and avail yourselves to your heart's content. Who is cryptocurrency helping? I dare say cryptocurrency is helping all of us. Our TT dollar is tied to the US dollar. I shared this because I saw Ivan share this, Diamond Mark share this some time back. And in a previous OneLife presentation, or One Academy presentation, I remember talking about this debt clock. This is the debt clock, the US debt clock as of today. And there are many interesting things here. Look at the savings per family. You want to know who is cryptocurrency helping? This is $15,130 US. But look at the personal debt, $62,177 US per citizen. What about the total debt to GDP ratio? 133.28%. This means that the debt exceeds what the GDP, the gross domestic product, total goods and services produced by the US economy. This means that they are not even producing enough to match the debt. And yet, somehow, this situation persists. $25 trillion US national debt. And then we go to this section here and we observe things like the dollar to crypto ratio now. We are just 42 to 42, 43. Our one is perhaps undervalued, you think? It's a question worthy of examination, maybe. What about the dollar to the gold ratio? So we can't get gold. The ETFs or exchange traded funds are dropping in value. Gold certainly is nowhere near this 21,729 US, but the banks are buying it and have been buying it now for many years. Russia, Turkey, China, Iran, and so on. How is it then that we are in this situation? But these are topics and conversations for another time. I did say that I didn't talk about products. And something prevailed on me and said, look, you should at least mention it. So I will. These are the products and they can be found on the OneLife website. I would encourage the person who invited you to get back with them and find out which one of these meets your need. Because there is a need for this. Can you imagine actually having an appreciating asset for once? In economics, they always taught us, I studied A-level economics, and they taught us that the floating currencies can appreciate in value. Since Trinidad and Tobago floated theirs back in 1994, I think it was, or may have been 96, 97, I have never seen our currency appreciate. It has always depreciated. The Jamaican dollar was 95 cents to 1 US. It has never appreciated. Why? Yet this particular currency, the cryptocurrency called One, has always appreciated in value. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to do that, but for the time we have watched it, it has always gone up, which means that one unit can buy more this time than it bought the last time. Is there any reason then that we shouldn't expect this to be vehemently fought? Because this changes the paradigm. It will change what you do because it changes what you know. And it interferes with what others are doing and with what others know. And those are the people who benefit from the current status quo. As I end this evening, I want to encourage each of us to Google some terms. Don't take my word for it. FinTech, cashless, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. They are going to become increasing words and part of the lingo as this move and this train progresses down the track. Get back with the person who invited you. Get to information sessions like this one, or perhaps you may not like my style, you may like the styles of others. It's not about being hooked on a style, it's getting the information. Get into the One Academy Level 1. That means you actually should consider seriously the purchase of a package. I like this quotation from Price Pritchard. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. It just means more belief, more time. And as we say in Trinidad and Tobago, time is longer than twine. Have a super fabulous evening, everyone, and stay safe. I return control to our most congenial host, Janelle Joseph.
Thank you very much, Alvin, for that wonderful presentation. And you never fail to deliver a wonderful quote. Today, while you were doing your presentation, I remembered a book I read some years ago. It's called The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. And one of the first things that they tell you is that everything changes and ends. So even in life, we get older, eventually die. We have children, they grow up and they're no longer our babies. We get married. Even in the best of marriages, a spouse eventually will pass on. So everything changes. So COVID is kind of fast-tracking changes for us right now, but we have to be prepared for changing. And one of the things Alvin said is that we should approach change positively, progressively, and purposefully. And those are such powerful words for us to embrace as we move forward with change. I had a couple other things I wanted to share with you, but I'm looking at the time. We're already at 9 o'clock. And I did want to ask King James to share a few words with us about
You go brave.
about some upcoming events that I think is important to whet our appetites and get us start thinking, because COVID will eventually end, you know, and things will start happening again. So one of the things coming up is an event. So I invite King James to share a little bit about that with us, please. Thank you, King James.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. Dr. Morton, I presume. What a presentation. And if that went over your head, it was okay. It went over mine too. But some things stuck out, and some things I just cannot get out of my mind based on so much things that Mr. Morton shared. And one of the key things that I cannot get out of mind is something is wrong. Something is wrong. It just don't add up. It just don't make sense. This is a learned young man who said at one point in his studies, the professor said to him that the floating currency, and once a currency float, it can rise in value. Lie. They have been lying to you and I for so long that the lie, once continued to be told, it can become the truth if you believe it. Can we come out of the lie, please? And the only way for you to come out of the lie is to unlearn or to reprogram or to develop new understanding. So for me, the most simplest thing for you to participate in this concept is to think about this. You're working for dying money. You can't save what's going to lose value. It makes no sense. And if you think about it, they taught us to save. So why would you save what's going to die? Are you working to die? Why do they keep increasing the retirement age so you can just work to death? These are thought-provoking issues that I have personally that cannot shake me. And I'm so happy that this opportunity exposed my mind and expanded it. I love to tell people I'm not too smart, because if I can do it and I can be a part of it, what does hinder you? So if you're hearing this for the first time, without any holding back, position yourself with immediate effect. Don't look left, don't look right. Go straight forward, brave, and get involved. Whether you pay with 140, where you have to start because that's where you are, or you start with a 5,000 euros or 10,000 euro package, you know, you just need to start. Point blank. How could you hear about the second economy that the world is going to? I mean, you saw statistics, you saw the writing. They used to talk bad about it. Now they're talking about being part of it. What is it? Hence the reason why you have to find out. You cannot pretend you didn't hear the information tonight. You cannot pretend you didn't hear from someone very educational that gave it to you raw, top corporate delivery, and you hear from a layman's that's just telling you point blank, brother, sister, you don't know that you don't know. Get to the knowing, please. And hear what? Do yourself a favor. What is the favor, you may ask? Let's take a trip. If you have not left the country, or it's been a long time since you left the country, Janelle spoke about COVID ending. Whether COVID end or not, the airport is not going to continue to stay closed. Let me tell you that. They are going to open the airport and they're going to open up things because they cannot continue to operate in the shell that we are operating in right now. But I believe that they have caused enough damage with this man-made disease that they released on us. And it's coming to a head. But that's a whole nother topic and conversation that I cannot get into you with, because then it leads to all type of conspiracy theories, and I want you guys to get the essence of this message. When it's all said and done, what you have learned since you was a little boy and a little girl has not been the truth. We welcome you to true learning. And if you want, let's take it a step. There's a massive event that is upon us that's going to be held in Romania. A One Life event that I know, the first One Life event that I went to. I won't say first international trip, because I had a chance and a privilege to travel before, but I traveled to Thailand for my first big event. And when I went to Bangkok, from there, my eyes opened like this. And now they have been like this. There has not been a turning back or turning point for me with this concept. It has just increased my appetite to understand more, want to know more, and participate more. I want to encourage every one of you to take a quick listen to this and find yourself not just dreaming, but putting things in place to be there. As One Life presents to you, an epic event, August 21st to the 23rd. The month of I Am birthday. So you know she's well positioning herself in Romania, Budapest. The legend of the one. That's what we are. That's who we are. We are legends and legendary, my friends. Embrace this change. Join us as we continue to drive progress. Are you ready? Legend of the one. Friends, you know in Trinidad and Tobago, you know, long time, we're ready. We're ready. We created a whole song telling people we're ready. So I'm telling you, friends, be ready. Position yourself. Clifton Chilipsy, you need to make sure you're in Romania, my brother. Without doubt or any hesitation, get there. Shoba Gopi Singh, position thyself. Donna, you have no choice. I am saying to you, my friends, get there. Get there. Mr. Kuju, position yourself. Fly from the US, brother, and get to Romania. I am saying to you, Mr. Hollis is, I'm calling names, people that I'm seeing in the chat. Salian, why not? Ricardo Panu, my brother. Mark, hello. Marcus, you and your father, get there. Why not? Let's go across there and represent the Caribbean at the highest standard and the highest level at the event that will be the rebirth that is needed for this organization to take it to leaps and bounds that we deserve to be at. I am humble to be a part of this opportunity and ever so grateful to be one of your family members. Janelle, take it away. One's out.
Well, there's nothing else to say. We're ready, we're ready, we're ready. And as they say in Monopoly, which we know we don't want Monopoly money, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Go straight to the person that shared this information with you and get started. Have a good night, folks. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. For those who missed it and have missed other chats and you want to have a refresher, you can go onto our Facebook page at OLN Caribbean and you could look at this all over again, plus other presentations we have. Have a good night, everyone. One's out.